at Zone 360, where we discuss everything military. Today on our show, we have Dr. Bernard Fialkoff. Thank you very much for joining me today, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Jay.
Yes. So you have an interesting background, and I know you're not a veteran, but there's a reason why you're on this show today, and we're going to get to that later on in the show.
Okay.
But what I want to do is I want our viewers to really know where you came from, because you have a very interesting background. If you could talk a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I was born in Havana, Cuba, and at the age of 8, I had to leave my country because of communism. So my mother and I came out, and we immigrated. Luckily enough, the United States took us in, took our whole family in. My grandparents eventually came, my father, and I grew up in Connecticut, up in Manchester. So from there, I went to dental school out here at Long Island, Stony Brook in Long Island. I actually trained in my specialty, which is dental implants and gum surgery, in the Memphis Veterans Administration Hospital. I was down there for a few years. So, I met a lot of vets, helped the vets there at the hospital, and then came back and set up my practice here in Bayside, Queens, New York, where I've been now, I can't believe it, 40 years, practicing implants, gum surgery, saving people's teeth, and working with the dentist on doing that.
Nice. So with you coming from Havana, you came over as a refugee. With who helped you guys come over here?
What happened is we had relatives who were in Connecticut, who were my grandfather's nephews and nieces. And so they helped. And really, it was just amazing that we were taken in, which actually leads to a point that I wanted to bring out, is that, which is why I do this program. I realized how lucky, not only my family, but that I was. That this country gave me an opportunity to be a periodontal implant surgeon, that I have my wife, Maria, our 4 children. They're all doing well, that we have this freedom. And it's just an amazing country. And the more and more I travel and I come back to the United States, we're not perfect. We have our problems like any family does.
Everybody does.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a family. There's no family out there who doesn't occasionally have a quarrel, have a fight. But you know what? It's unbelievable. I come back here and I land, and it just seems like our sky has no roof on it. It's just like you can feel the freedom in this country, and that's why I do this program. And to those people out there, Jay, who are immigrants like I was, the beauty of it is that you can really do what you want in this country.
Yes.
You can work hard and get somewhere, and so you can become something.
Exactly. For example, yourself came from Havana, 8 years old, went through the school system here, which you started late because we start at 5.
That's right.
And you were still able to thrive, get your education, and become a dentist. So I want to really get into the program that you do for the veteran community. But before that, when you were growing up, a lot of immigrants that I've dealt with coming from other countries, I was a recruiter in the Army for 9 years. And a lot of people come in and tell me, I want to join the military because I want to give back to the country that took me in. So what made you, and I know we talked a little bit about this before, but what made you choose the dentistry route instead of joining the military?
Good question.
Yes.
Because I had some friends who actually did that. So we have to go back to Cuba. My father, Ruben, was a physician in Cuba. My mother, Raquel, was a pharmacist, and she had her pharmacy in Old Havana. So what happened when my father wasn't working, he'd go and visit my mother at the pharmacy. And, just like any country, there were people who really are not really economically well off and had their difficulties. They would come to the pharmacy, and my father would actually examine them. I was a little boy at that point. I was maybe 5, 6. And it's funny that you mentioned that because you brought back an image. I used to actually play with G.I. Joes, the little plastic guys.
Yeah.
And I actually had a whole bunch of those in the back. But what happened is my father would examine these patients. And then after he examined them, he'd diagnose them. And they had a box in the back of the pharmacy. And for those of the viewers who were Spanish, ellos tenían un cajón ahí atrás en la farmacia. They had a box in the back in the pharmacy. And so he would go into this box, this cajon, and he would find the medicine that they needed, and he would grab the medicine, and my mother and father would give it to the person, and they'd walk away. And so I saw that, and it's just part of our family tradition of healthcare, helping people. And, it's funny because I realize that, this program that we're talking about that's going to have the next day, March 30th, which is the American Dentists Give Back to Veterans Group, this is like my version of that cajon, that box.
Yes.
Except the box has gotten bigger, and now we're going to have this in every city in the country and give back to the people who deserve it, which are our veterans.
Nice.
So that's the story.
No, and that's perfect because veterans do need it. Myself, I'm 100% disabled through the military, through the veterans. I'm able to get my dentistry work done at the VA hospital.
Right.
But a lot of veterans that get out of the military early, don't finish their 20 years, aren't retired, aren't 100% disabled, aren't able to get that quality of dentistry. So getting dental insurance is a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And this is a way that veterans can go and get the care that they need for, free on that day. They can go there, they can get an exam, they can get their cleaning, and that's going to be a huge help for our veteran community.
You make a very good point, because when we started this, we said, well, you know what, but we need this, we need that. How about what the cost of this is going to be? And then as a group, because I run a study club for about 25 years, the dental colleagues in my study group said, you know what, let's just do this. Let's start. Disney World wasn't made in a day, and this country wasn't made in a day. So we started, and we decided we would start with free cleanings and exams.
Nice.
And what happened is I want to actually validate someone who should be validated, which is New York City Veterans Services Commissioner James Hendon.
Yes, good friend of mine.
Okay, yeah, he's a friend of mine. And what happened is he saw the program, and, because he saw that it was worthwhile, he said to me, you know what, I would like to actually promote this on the city's social media lines, and he did. And we've gotten together. And then what happened after the December 9th event that we held went really well. We met and we said, okay, how can we make this thing even more self-sufficient, something that's going to promote into the future and survive? So we were talking about different programs that the city actually has. And actually his assistant, Mrs. Greeley, mentioned to me that they have a program there that's, I think, Pay for Success, they called it, where corporations in the city, and I would welcome those who are watching your program now, can actually invest in this program in the city. And by investing in the program, they gave New York City a chance to have the program initially before the appropriations and legislation and all these things that have to go on, obviously, and allows the city to start that. That will give us a chance to start delivering services to our veterans. And then what happens is the city knows it's going to work, and with this program, once it does, these investors will, get their investment back, which they should, because they help it to happen, and that's going to help our veterans to actually have a program. One other thing I want to say, because I trained at the VA hospital in Memphis, the VA is doing everything it can. Even if we took every VA hospital in the United States, the reality is there's so many veterans. I don't see how it's fair to say and criticize them and not doing it. I don't believe in criticism. They're doing everything that they can.
Yes.
But this will allow dentistry as a whole to get involved in the program with the city governments and form alliances.
I like that. And that's the way it should be. Everybody working as a team.
You got it.
To take care of our veteran community. Yes. So I saw, you showed me a clip with you on the UN, at the UN, giving a brief.
A few weeks ago.
Yes.
As director of the American Dentists Give Back Group to Veterans, we have veterans all over the globe. They fought for us in every country. Obviously, we fought with each other too, but that's human strife. And we can resolve this at the United Nations. So this program is to help all veterans in all countries, because when we protect our youth from drugs, when we acknowledge veterans like the captain from Ottawa who have fought for us and made it possible for us to be at the UN, then we have a world that has integrity, honesty, and pride. I want to end very quickly with some men who are much brighter than I. Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream. Gandhi said, "We must be the change we wish to see in the world." Let February 19th, 2020 in the United Nations be known as the day that we protected justice, human dignity, and the future of mankind. Thank you.
Yes. What was that about?
What happened is there were two groups that invited me. One is called COGEP from Europe, which is a group that has to do with justice. They establish justice in the world. The other group is a Chinese group, Oriental, which is called FOPAL, which is the Foundation for Love and Peace. And basically both organizations held an event at the UN. My good friend, Ambassador Sanin, was the actual host of the event. And the whole purpose of the event was to share ideas. I met the Lieutenant Governor of Rhode Island there, Dan McKee. Very interesting how this happened, because he saw me speaking about veterans. And he said to me after the event, he goes, let's talk. And he explained to me how lieutenant governors in the whole country are looking to do something with veterans. So we're going to take a look and see how with lieutenant governors that we can actually do something. There were people from all over the world there, different clergy leaders, different corporation executives. And we just basically were networking, which I welcome with anyone out there. If they have any ideas, I want to just give them something. You can actually get us at American Dentist Give Back to Vets at gmail.com, and you can definitely send us your ideas, because like you said, this is a group idea. This is my program. It's our program.
Exactly.
It's our country.
Nice. And how did this program come about? I understand we're working with the veteran community, but where was the thought process behind getting all the dentists, and what did it really take to start this program?
Okay, very good. Well, I work a lot. I do a lot of drug education with a friend of mine who's a retired Harlem Globetrotter, Mr. Robert Hunter.
Okay.
And Bobby played with Metal Clark Lemon and all the guys back then. And I met him a few years ago. He and I have gone all across the country educating kids on drugs at the voice clubs, different sporting activities. We're actually in Philadelphia with Dr. J at the training facility this summer, where Dr. J is very good with, we're training kids. And, we train the kids there at the facility. And what happened is when we were speaking, he does a lot with homelessness.
Okay.
So when he was talking about the homelessness, I said to him, it's interesting because the vets, about 12%, unfortunately, are homeless. And he said to me, well, Dr. Ben, how about their teeth? And I said, to be honest with you, Bobby, they probably need something with their teeth also. And so then another friend of ours, who actually is with the National Latino Officers Association, Manny Rodriguez, he was there and he goes, Doc, we should do something for the vets. He was a Vietnam vet. And I said, Manny, let's do this. Manny introduced me to another member of our group, who's Johnny Williams, who runs a really big group across the whole country, which is called Help Is On Its Way. And our advocate is Terry Ham, who puts it all together with, my daughter Megan, my wife Maria. So basically we formed this group, and that was the whole way how it happened. And then we just basically, each one of us takes who we're connected to, brings it into the group, and for the whole function of making this occur.
How many dentists are involved right now?
Right now in New York, I have a club that has over 1,000 dentists.
Wow.
Right now, presently, there's probably about 50 to 100 who want to deliver the program. The other ones are all there, in all honesty, and I told this to Commissioner Hendon. I said, I really don't want to start them all because we need to get the program moving. We want to make sure the program is functioning properly. But there's no shortage of dental practitioners. As a dentist, I guess from my group, we sometimes get a bad rap, but when you really think about it, to be a good dentist, you first have to really be a good counselor.
Yes.
You have to really listen well. You have to allay that person's fears and anxieties. And so, I think dentists are good people. I think dentistry as a whole, we're really good people. And we care. And so because dentists also have their own offices, they have the freedom to decide And so we have quite a few dentists. And actually, I want to let you know something. We did it in Atlanta with a friend of mine, Josh Bank, who has an office there with about 3 or 4 dentists. We held it there. We're going to be holding it in Los Angeles in a few days. And, I'm sure those of you who are watching, and I'm sure some dentists will be watching, contact me, and we can run it in your city.
Yes. And you know what? I'll tell you, dentists are very good people, but they're very scary. Because every time I leave the dentist, I leave with a numb mouth, and I just hate going. All right? But I know it's necessary, and we need to do it. But
well, I tell you what, with that in mind, I got to tell you 2 friends of mine who actually get a lot of the dentists involved, which is the former president of Queens and Nassau County Dental Society, Robert Traeger, and also the president county of the Nassau County Dental Society, who's out there, which is Benoit Verma. And we were teasing about that the other day, and we said, wow, these people are going to wonder, these are really the dentists? You're absolutely right.
So I want to ask you, coming up March 30th, that's
Yes.
when the event's happening.
That's right. This is it right here.
Yes. How will people know which dentist office to go to?
Okay, well, what happens is those of you who are watching, respond to the Gmail that we gave before, which is the American Dentist Give Back to the Vets at gmail.com. And what we do is then we see where you're situated, because we have dentists basically in all the boroughs. And then we just select that patient to that dentist, and they take care of the patient.
Nice.
It's that simple. It'll be Monday from 9 to around 2 o'clock.
Okay.
There's some dentists who can't do it on Monday, and they said they'd be willing to do it during the week. And the reality is that as this gets going, and I know Commissioner Hendon wants this to happen, is that we're going to be able to have this program really become a little more structured. Right now, the idea is to have it maybe once every month or so.
Okay,
but
which is really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Now, where do you see this going? Where do you see this program going here in the near and far future?
I guess we got to go back to that I'm from Cuba. And how lucky I was to be here.
Yes.
And the other day I was talking to my wife, and I said, we're lucky in this country. We have electricity. And there are people in Con Ed, Lilco, I don't know what the company's called on Staten Island. I'm on Staten Island. But wherever they are in Staten Island, and they're there. And then you got guys who are out on the highway when it's freezing, fixing the road. And so to me, life is a group activity. So where I see this program going is this. This country was based on freedom, our Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the freedom to have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and choose. So to me, because we're safeguarding the men and women, some who gave up their lives,
yes,
disabled, and even those who are just mentally just very stressed, to me, the program is going to give back to them. And I know when somebody says to me in my office, Dr. Fialkoff, thank you for taking care of me today. I know I was a rough patient. Thank you. That means the world to me. And I know it just fills me with energy. So I know it's going to do the same thing for veterans. This is something I want to point out. Our veterans protected the country. And when we validate them, I know that what they're dying to do is they need something else to do. They want to protect some more. So what better thing could that veterans do than protect the youth of this country from opioids, from synthetic drugs, from all these drugs? I have friends of mine who've lost their kids in their 20s. And, numbers don't mean anything. When you lose your son, your daughter, which my friends did, I felt horrible.
Yeah.
So to me, this program will protect the vets, will protect our country. And I want to really, there's something that I know that I've read, and I thought it was really something by George Washington. And he said, I've nearly gone blind, and I'm gray. And he didn't have any teeth also, in service to our country. And, so I think we have to take a look at what our founding fathers did and realize when they were out there freezing by that river, that they gave us all of this opportunity here today. And so, it behooves us, let's take what we have and let's give it back to the country.
I agree. Giving back to the country, giving back to our veterans, giving back to our first responders. I mean, that should be number one on everybody, everybody's mind.
I think so, Jay.
Yeah. So when you go into this day on March 30th, these individuals, these veterans will email that email, the one that you gave us, which we'll put on our, our screen.
Thank you.
And they will get word back from you stating what dentist to go to and what time to go there, correct?
They're going to either get an email or a phone call from the actual dentist office.
Okay.
This program is actually over many offices, which is the beauty of it. It's many dentists who are participating, who are out there, Dr. Gomez, Dr. Traeger, Dr. Cordero, all over the place, and Dr. Verma. And they will call the patients directly and attend to what time, whatever. And it's like I say, and this is where we're beginning. As we go on, obviously it would be nice. Maybe there's somebody out there watching. I actually have a friend of mine out there whose name is Jorge Miguel, and he's actually working on getting us an office facility that it's going to be donated. So what I feel what should happen is in that facility, I guess those people watching who would want to help this program as a nonprofit, not as a job, but it's like what we're doing. Nobody pays us to do what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And they could work within the facility to help communicate, make these calls, and that's the whole idea.
Nice. So the reservists, the National Guardsmen, the the part-time veterans, also the veterans that have gotten out of the military.
Right.
They all can contact and do this.
Right.
Now, a question that I have for you is we have homeless veterans out there, veterans that are in shelters, veterans that aren't going to see this program,
Right.
veterans that aren't going to see my YouTube channel. How are we going to get to those veterans to let them know about this and give them that same opportunity?
It's a very good question because it's difficult for them to get that information. So what I would urge is those viewers who are watching to somehow get the word out to the organizations who deal with them, the city. I'm sure my friend Commissioner Hendon, as he's going to be watching this, he's going to say, wow, Jay Lawrence, very good point that we haven't thought about. You brought up a very good point that needs to be handled. So how do we do that? Also, they're homeless.
Yes.
And, my friend Bobby Hunter would say, let's do something about the homeless. So absolutely, it's a very good point. Probably the city. And we can take a look at maybe the mayor can come up with some idea on how we can, because I know he's very big with his wife on helping the homeless. And probably he has some ideas on how to do that.
Yeah. And one thing I would recommend.
Tell me.
And this is something that, because you were at the same brief I was when we went to East Brooklyn.
Yes.
And sat down with Commissioner Hendon.
That's right.
And he said that for our homeless veterans, there are only, if I'm not mistaken, 9 homeless veterans here in the New York City area that are actually still out on the street, but they know exactly where they're at, what they're doing, and they're tracking them. All the rest are in shelters for these veterans. Are we able to get this information to all those shelters?
It's a very good question. We'll have to investigate that. And it's interesting you brought that out because my friend Miguel actually is doing work within the shelters with a friend of his who actually houses the veterans. And I feel so bad that I've forgotten her name. She's gonna kill me, but her name is Carol. And Carol does a lot with veterans. Her own family, her brother was a veteran, which actually inspired her to do the program that she does with housing. And so, you know what? I'm sure that Carol will have a lot of ideas on how to do this, and I'll speak to Commissioner Hendon, and we can see what we do with that.
Perfect. So one thing I want to do is I want to give you this opportunity to really talk to these young men and women out there that are immigrants and not immigrants on, how to be able to overcome those obstacles that you've overcame coming from Havana and ending up where you are now.
Well, you know what? I guess I'll tell 2 stories. One is my father's story, and one is something my mother said to me. So I remember when I was a kid, and I must have been around 10 at that point. My father, when he came from Cuba, he wasn't recognized as a physician anymore. So he had to redo his residency and his internship at the hospital. And we were driving up to Maine so he could take the exam to get his first license. And my father's first license was in Maine before he got the one in Connecticut. And we were behind a snowplow truck going to Bangor, Maine in the winter. It There's nobody on the road because there must have been 6 inches of snow. And I said, where are we going? But the point is the degree of what my father went through, and that he had to be willing. I think one lesson is you have to be willing. You have to, just like in a game or in a war, you have to suck it up. You can't sit there and lament and be a victim. You've got to be active. You've got to, by all means, sometimes, believe me, I get angry, or sometimes I really get frustrated. I'm sure people out there are doing that. Just continue. Continue on your dream. It's just a matter of time. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer. And then I'm going to tell you something that I would be remiss if I didn't tell you what my mother told me once when I was in high school. And she was complaining to me about something. I won't say exactly what. And my mother, Raquel, I said to her, no, you know what, those guys genetically are, they're better than I am. And they also have a better background than I do. And, I can't do as well as I can. So she really let me have it. And I have to figure out the exact words I can utilize on the show, but because I can't tell you what she said in Spanish to me.
No.
But she said to me basically, she goes, the only problem that you have is you have to be willing, like those guys do that you think have this genetic, advantage over you and this background. You have to be willing to do what they're doing. You have to be willing to sit in this chair on your behind and study and apply. And if you do, you will make it. So I got to tell you, I was around 16. I never forgot it. And I went to dental school in Long Island. I always remembered from that day I started applying it. Did very well in college. Graduated dental school as a valedictorian of the Stony Brook Dental School in 1980. I'm what's called the Pierre Fouchard honoree for the community services I've done over the last 25, 30 years. And, she passed away about a year and a half ago. It was very hard, to have some emotion on it. And but I know one thing, and this is why I love being on a show with you like this and this program, is I feel my mother and father here. And I feel something that he said to me one time when I asked him, I said, what happens when you die? I don't understand what happens when you die. And he said to me, well, I think you're going to carry on for me. And I think you're going to continue what the Fialkoffs do in the world. And so it's interesting because here I am with you, Jay Lawrence, and I never thought I'd be in Staten Island, a guy from Connecticut, speaking to you about the United States of America. Yes. So to those people out there, go for it.
Thank you for coming on my show, and we'll do a follow-up. I'll come out on March 30th. We'll do some interviews, and we'll see, where this definitely goes.
We'll bring them back here on the show so they can be sitting here with us.
There you go.
I'll see if we can get Mr. Hunter to come out here, and absolutely.
Definitely. We'll see what we do. Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
And thank you very much for tuning in. And until next time, make sure you thank a veteran.